Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fran and Friends. As you know, Friday is usually our days for the live stream, but Saturday we have special guests sometimes on the show, and Marie-Aude is one of them. So I'm going to read Marie-Aude's bio because she has such an extensive background that I can't remember it all. All right. So Marie-Aude, she's a holistic health coach, and she's been a yoga instructor for 25 years. She helps women regain health with the change of their nutrition, and she addresses their health problems, pardon me, at a time to sustain proper essential nutrients that they need throughout their lives to feel good emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I'm really glad that you touch on all those things, especially the spiritual part, because I think that's an area that sometimes is discounted. Let me see. And
I agree. Yes.
yeah. And give me just a second. I'm getting back down to the bio. So it says, without our health, we have nothing. And she's absolutely right. We can have all the money in the world with no health, and you can't do anything with the material gains. So she said that the key is to listen to ourselves, to take time for ourselves, to nourish our bodies and our spirits daily. Life is a constant flux that we change, because things change around us. But inwardly is where the true life exists. I really love that. She said that her approach, yeah, she said that her approach is totally unconventional and she doesn't try to fit in with what others do. And I would love for you to share more what that is. And also just a bit about your background, because it says that you're a French yogini. And for some people, they may not know what that is. So please share.
Well, there's no real secret to that. That just means that I'm French and was born in France and raised in France, and so I kind of use this little part of me as an advantage. And so, anyway, I've learned all of my yoga in the US. So I moved when I was fairly young. I was still a teenager, a young lady, and my journey. My journey was I was really seeking spirituality since the very beginning. I didn't really know it, but I felt an empty void inside, and I just needed to find something. And yoga was the means that I found the spirituality that I follow now, and the spiritual teacher that I have in my life, and that changed me completely. But it started with yoga, and it took me a while. I was told many times over, go do some yoga, find a spiritual teacher. And I was like, whatever. I was in my 20s. And all you want to do is play. Well, that was my case. Go out, party, have fun. I lived in New York City. I moved there when I wasn't even 20 yet. So I was very, very young. And so all you want to do is have fun. But and that's kind of normal, and we should have fun and explore. Anyway, and so eventually I tagged along with a friend of mine who was going to this yoga session in the evening, and I was like, all right, I'll go. And that was the end. That's when it all started, I should say.
So she had an event, or your friend had an event, and they just invited you, and you just fell in love with the practice of yoga?
Yeah, I just knew this was for me, and I had to continue. Yeah, it was a yoga class in New York City. There's many, but she had invited me many times over, and this was the right time. I had actually moved away from New York. I had lived there for 7 years. Then I moved back to Paris. I got married. Then I came back to the US, and I was really seeking then. I was searching. I was in my late 20s at that time. So maybe 28, 29, something like that. And there was a big void that I needed to fill. And so the yoga got me on the spiritual path. You start learning you start listening. This is where you start listening inside, which before it's all noise outside. Everything's bombarded at you. Although we didn't have the social media that we do today, which is, I don't know how the younger crowd does it today, honestly. It's overwhelming. But living in New York City, it's a fast-paced city. It's about your career, all of that. So anyway, the yoga came into my life, and it was like, thank you. And so it just helped me with mentally, emotionally as well. And also you at that age, you're searching for yourself. I think, when we're young, we're searching. We don't really know what's going on. So,
Kind of like
it's
yoga
my,
assisted you with from the distractions. It helped you to
yes,
find
yes.
a place of balance.
Yes, you're able to be in a room with other people who are seeking or want the same thing, and you just not only we do the physical activity of the yoga, but there's meditation involved, or you have to slow down and you have to hear what's going on inside that head, which is not pretty sometimes, especially when you start. I think starting is probably the hardest because you don't realize that there's all these negative thinking that goes on in our head, when we slow down. And the anger, that I had a lot of anger. I didn't even realize it. I just,
Wow.
I was feeling empty, feeling just betrayed for whatever reason, just feeling not myself, not whole, Anyway, so that was the journey that I embarked on, and that was the reason why I came to the US. I had a drive inside that brought me here. It was
And
just
you didn't know what was driving the anger and the resentment inside. You just knew that you wanted to find a place of peace.
yes. Well, when you are a young person, you have maybe issues with your parents, which I did. The way they raised us, and there was nothing wrong with my family. My parents were just regular folks, and I had a really good childhood. There's nothing to complain about, but there's always something, when you live with other people. And then as a teenager, we have resentments, which are unfounded, of course, but it's part of growing up. We have to learn to resolve these things for ourselves. And when I came to this country, this was the beginning of doing that. I had resentment towards my mom and different things. And then I realized it wasn't her, it was me. It starts with us. And then once you can forgive and realize that we have a part in whatever happens in our lives, everything started to open up and change.
Totally.
And yeah.
No, please finish. I was just agreeing out loud, which I'm
There
trying not.
was one thing that I had that happened all my childhood. I had nightmares it wasn't every day, but regularly, where I had this clown that was running after me in my nightmares. This ugly clown, and he was really scary. And all I could do was run away from him. And when it happened, and I would wake up scared to crazy, like almost sweating and all that. And when I came to the US, that was a big deal for me, because when I came to the US, I had that dream again, and I stood up to him. I turned around, I faced the clown, and he disappeared like it never existed. So, we can have fears inside of us. And it was very interesting. And so things change. A lot of things change from that time on.
That's beautiful. What do you think made you stand up? Because all the time you said that when you were a kid, you were running away from this character, right?
Yes.
But all of a sudden, when you came
I
here, is it because of the change or the transition of location, or maybe the new
think
spirituality
so.
kind of?
Yeah, I think so. I think being living in New York City, I lived in Manhattan. Everything was very different. I felt welcome and at home, and I was really welcome. People loved the fact that I had a French accent. I was like, wow, okay. And you know, and my English wasn't so good. I couldn't have a conversation. I could have never done what we're doing right now. I could only, just ask a few questions, and most of the time I said nothing because I couldn't have a conversation. It's hard to have a conversation in another language. But yeah, it was very different, and I just I was meant to be there. I felt totally at home when I moved to New York City. I loved it. It was fantastic. I don't live there now, and I'm quite happy about that too. So
Okay, where are you based now?
so now I live in the southwest of the U.S. in New Mexico.
Okay, cool.
Close to Albuquerque in the mountains. I'm at about 7,000 feet in altitude.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
Okay. I don't know if people really know what today's topic is about, but if for those of you that are just tuning in, we're talking about recovering from brain damage. Because Marie-Aude, she had a tragic accident which caused the brain damage. And I wanted to see if you could share with us a little bit what that journey looked like.
Yeah, so traumatic brain injury is a very strange event, and most people really don't know what it's all about, which is understandable. Unless you've gone through one, there's really nothing you can really understand about it. But it's strange too because the person usually will look the same, so you have no clue as to what is happening inside the head of that person or the handicap. I mean, I would tell, when I went through the brain injury, I would tell people I'm handicapped. I know you don't think I am because I look the same and physically I look fine. But I'm handicapped, so I had to ask for a lot of help around me, strangers, anybody that was near me. If I was out and about shopping or just getting some groceries or going to even the doctor. Yeah, I had a car accident. I was rear-ended at a red light, and that changed my life completely on the
You
spot.
ran a red light, or somebody ran a red light and they hit you?
We were stopped at a red light. It was rush hour, and the guy behind me didn't notice that we were stopped. So I stopped him. My car stopped him.
Ooh.
And so we were doing about 35 miles an hour. I mean, I was stopped at that point, but he was, and he had a big SUV.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was fate. It was meant to be. And in some ways, like I mentioned to you before, it changes you for the better. And the experience was really deep and intense. It was really hard to live, I must admit. But it helped
Like
me go.
you don't look like somebody that experienced brain damage. But then again, the question is, what do people with brain damage look like, right?
They don't, it's unless you have in the eyes you can tell. Like a lot of my students told me that they looked at me and I wasn't really there, and it's true, I wasn't there. You're in a daze, you're somewhere else, you just also there could be a disconnect with the physical and your the astral plane, your mental as well, but there could be a disconnect, which is completely normal. It's the way we protect ourselves from a major trauma. It happens naturally. It's not like you have to induce yourself with anything.
Could you clarify what that means for some viewers that are watching? Because you mentioned something about astral plane.
Yeah, so we live in the physical plane, right? We have a physical body, we have face, everything, and the plane above that is the astral plane. So it's we can compare it to the emotional aspect of us, and so When we can have trauma, we just disconnect from the physical, even though we still live in the physical body, but we live more in the astral. Just like when somebody has it's hard to explain, but just like somebody who is in a coma, they are in the astral plane. So they're regenerating and healing and doing all of that. Whether they come back into their body to continue their life as in the physical, we don't know, but that's what happens.
So it's like a spiritual plane, the astral plane.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a few more beyond that, but that's one of the planes, yeah.
Okay,
so, and I know I wasn't really in my body very often because I couldn't. It just was very hard to, when your brain is not working, you don't even know how to brush your teeth. You don't know how to dress yourself anymore. You don't know how to do your hygiene. It's very hard. You have to relearn everything. And when it happened, the next day I had class. And so first of all, I couldn't remember I didn't even know who I was anymore. I was like, I don't even know if I have class today. I knew there was yoga involved in my life. And so I had to somehow I had to find out how, and that I did have a class that evening. So it took me half a day to put an email together with 2 lines saying I had a car accident. I cannot teach today and for the rest of the week. Forgive me, and I'll be in touch. And that was that, something like that, That took me literally half a day to put that together because I couldn't compute how to do it. It was too complicated.
So when did you find out that these tasks that you were doing that are so simple, at what point did you identify that, oh, okay, well, I need to go see somebody to help me with this condition?
Yeah, so because of the health coaching, and I've been doing this for quite a long time, and I'm holistic. I don't really visit doctors that much, except for chiropractors, naturopathic doctors, or massage, those kind of modalities. I knew that I needed to see somebody right away. And so I contacted, I didn't know how bad I didn't even know I had a brain injury. I just knew something was wrong with me. I didn't know what. And so I called this massage therapist if I could get a massage, and just to, get me back on track or something like this. And she said to me, oh, no, you need to go to the ER. You need to get diagnosed. You need to make sure you don't have a brain injury. You need to, all of that.
Right.
And she's like, I can't see you until you have been seen by a medical doctor. And it was the best advice that I could have gotten.
Okay.
It was very wise of her, and I appreciate that. And so I actually contacted my chiropractor, and he was on vacation, so I had to see somebody else that might back up. And he saw me the next day. And you should never go to the chiropractor the day of the accident. You should wait a few days because the body seizes and tightens up and goes through transformation, and you want to let the body to just start relaxing and start coming into its own, even though the spine might be off and everything, maybe a little distorted. You want to wait until
survival mode once that happens.
You what?
I said your body, when she mentioned to go to the ER, and you also mentioned that our body is tensed up. So our body is basically in a survival mode.
Yes. It's going through the trauma still.
Okay.
And so the body is not ready to be worked with at this point. At that time, I didn't know I had a brain injury, even though I had all these issues with putting an email together or doing anything. I was just a little bit I was stunned still. And that night after it happened, the next morning, in the middle of the night, I woke up and I was crying. And that's the brain injury. I know that now. I was distraught, and I didn't know what was happening, and I was crying, and I just couldn't stop, and there was no real reason for it. It's just, in trauma. So anyway, when I went to see the doctor, he did go through all the protocols that they go through in case of a car accident, because there could be a brain injury or other issues. And so he asked me a number of questions and all of that sort of stuff to just see if he asked me what year we were in.
I was going to ask you what those questions were.
Yeah, so things like that. They asked me who's the president, where do what's your name, where do you live, things like that. And I forget exactly. I wrote down a bunch of questions that he asked me, but. The thing is, so he didn't diagnose me with the brain injury. He thought, oh, no, you're fine. And you cannot remember what happened the minute before. So he was asking me things like, I don't remember exactly, but I couldn't remember what had happened like 15 minutes ago. I didn't even know. Like, he could have asked me, what did you have for breakfast? And that would have been a great question, because I wouldn't have been able to answer him at all, like literally. And so he didn't diagnose me with the brain injury, and he gave me an adjustment at that time, which I think was not, I mean, it kind of relieved me physically a little bit, but it wasn't until a week later, and I had a few students that were friends of mine that insisted. They were like, Marie-Aude, you don't know what's going on. You should go to the ER and just make sure you don't have anything, worse than that. And I had a French friend who I was texting. That's the only thing I could do, is text. That was fairly easy. I could put a few words together. And this young man, he's the one who really insisted, actually. And he had been, he's American citizen now, and so he's gone to war, actually. He was with the military. And he's had a few concussions, so he knew about it. And he said, Marie-Aude, you need to go to get to the ER. And so I went, and that's how I got diagnosed. But I almost didn't stay. Have you been to the ER? It's an awful thing to do.
Yes, I have. It was an awful place to be.
Yeah, they keep you around. And that was in 2016, so before COVID, but they keep you around forever. And I went in the evening, so it took 8 hours before I could see somebody. So
yep, that sounds like a normal ER visit.
Yeah.
That's so great that you had those friends to really push you into going to see seeking medical advice, especially when they observed that your behavior wasn't normal. So
yes,
somebody was looking out for you.
That's for sure. I'm hard-headed. I just don't like to go to hospitals, doctors, and all of that. It's just it's painful to me. And they don't listen. I was very lucky. I met this young medical doctor, and she was really amazing. And she listened to me carefully. She was asking me all these kinds of questions. And we were having a conversation instead of the doctor talking at you, being like superior to you. Meanwhile, it's like, I'm the one with all the problems, And so she was very different in her approach. And she said, yeah, you do. And so they did a CAT scan. I didn't have any bleeding in the brain, which was really the important part. You can't see anything on a CAT scan.
CT scan.
There's nothing to be seen. No, you can't. Anyway.
That's awesome that it's so interesting when we do have doctors or practitioners that are really in tune with wanting to know what the client's needs are. I think we can have better dialogue when we do have those kind of conversations versus trying to push something on the client. And I'm not saying that doctors do that, but you're right. There is this superiority complex that I've experienced when I went to the doctor. Like, okay, I know better than you. It's like, oh, okay, cool. You're not the only wisdom in this world.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and that's why I avoid those kind of offices. I mean, obviously, there's always great doctors and all,
right?
But and they're just stuck in one way, and they don't even understand about health. About nutrition, which is the base of our health.
That was what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
I work with people one-on-one, the key is to really listen. So I ask a lot of questions, but I listen to their story. And usually people will not tell you everything right away because they don't realize that's important. And so you have to really dig in. And the more you ask, the more you get the answers you need to have to actually help them in their health journey with supplementation, the right diet, and then, yoga if, usually they want yoga as well. But that's how I approach it, and just a kind ear to for the person changes everything. Suddenly, they feel better. I mean, it's the truth, right? It's a simple act of care and love, and I think doctors today don't do that much, except for the ones that are holistic.
Yeah. People just want to be heard and seen, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're here to find an answer and solutions,
Right.
and so yeah, we should be all of that. I mean, I'm not a doctor, just to be clear. I'm not a physician
Right.
of any kind, but you can address most of the health issues we have today through foods, if you know what you're doing, and then help yourself with the herbal remedies or some kind of supplements. And yeah, I believe so. I
Yeah.
actually wholeheartedly believe that. So
Yeah. So just for people that are watching on social media, this is not a medical advice at all. We're just sharing
yeah,
our experiences of what we've experienced with practitioners, things that we may have applied in our own lives as far as a holistic approach. So this is just stories that we're sharing from our point of view. And speaking of nutrition, you mentioned to me that you use nutrition to heal your brain injury. Please share with us what that journey looked like.
so yeah, immediately after next few days after the brain injury, all I could think about was a red, juicy steak, bloody. That's all I could think about. It was right there in my third eye, and it was like I just craved it so bad. It was unbelievable, and I never really ate much red meat before. I had been a vegetarian for 15 years. 2 or 3 years prior to my brain injury. And I had started to reincorporate meat because I realized that I was killing myself on the vegetarian diet. I was depleted of many vitamins.
I was going
And
to
I
ask
had,
you, what did you mean by that? Because you said you practiced being a vegetarian for 15 years, but then
yeah,
just 3 years
it
ago,
was in retrospect today. I mean, obviously, every experience is valuable, but it was a big mistake. And it was this big trend. It still is today. It's a huge trend to be vegetarian and not eat meat. I was raised on raw milk, cheese, butter, meat, every day. This is how we were raised. My dad was from the farm and we ate everything, but meat and meat products, fat, we ate pork, we everything was done at the farm. We were raised like that. And so the genes are good when it's like that. I truly believe that we are meant to eat meat. So anyway, with the brain injury, the most important part of our diet has to be red meat, not even, chicken. I mean, you can have any kind of meat you want, but the red meat is the most important, mostly beef or from large ruminant animals like elk and so on and so forth. So every day, every meal, I ate a lot because it gave me the energy and it would help me with my brain. I ate a lot. I mean, I just ate my 3 meals, which I never did before. I ate mostly 2 meals. That was enough,
for
but I
you,
needed to eat more.
what exactly did the meat do for your I guess, the neurons in your brains, in your
Yeah,
brain,
so
in your brain?
um, the neurons, we all have neurons. When so there's a period of die-off during the brain injury, and it's cumulative, and it takes from my experience and the way I experienced it from inside. It took, I think it was about 2-3 weeks of die-off where things were getting worse by the day, right? So the brain injury progresses because you have the trauma, and then it's not just boom, the lights are out, or you just this new person that can't function. It's more of a progressive evolution that happens to you, and then you're like, things just don't work anymore. And so you can't think, you can't remember anything. I had to put post-its everywhere in my house to remind myself, at this time, do this. Like cooking was really dangerous, actually, because I would leave things on the stove, not knowing that I had put any food to prepare. So I actually acquired I forget what they call those little dinky little stoves there that a toaster oven. That's it. That's what it is.
The little cooker stove. Yeah.
No,
I don't
it's
know.
bigger than that. But it was a life-saving because I would put my food in there to be cooked, and there's a timer, and so you can time it for how long you want it. And when it stops, it dings. So it would tell me, oh, I would hear the ding, and I'd be like, oh, did I prepare some food? So I'd go back there and I'd be like, oh yeah, I did prepare some food, because I would not remember anything. So yes, to get back to the red meat, it's the most important thing that you can do. The animal fat and animal protein is probably one of the number one products that we need to consume as humans. And so I got on a ketogenic diet, not knowing that even existed. I didn't know the name of it. It just was natural. My body, my brain, everything was craving. Just get on the meat. I couldn't eat nuts. It would give me canker sore. I'd react. I'd have allergies to everything. I couldn't eat grains at all because it transforms into sugar. And my brain would just start going on fire. It was just crazy. And it was within minutes. So I had complete reaction to any of that. I didn't eat any fruits at all because I couldn't. The fructose is so intense.
Not even the natural sugar?
No.
Wow.
I couldn't do sugar. And I wanted to sometimes, but I just couldn't. Yeah, I mean, you want to have other things than just that, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't have muffins, bread. I would have when down the road, maybe a year or so later, I was able to have one slice of bread a day, but that was the maximum. Any more than that, and my brain would react, or my brain would react in a way that it would become sappy and not functional. It's even worse than before. So I just I'm very sensitive, and I'm intuitive. So I just followed what my body wanted. And turns out that there's a diet called keto, ketogenic diet. And so that's what I really was on. I would eat vegetables and meat, cheese. I couldn't have milk, cheese, and then, bacon, eggs. I could do eggs. Yeah, that was my diet. And I did see a professional at some point who specialized in brain injury. And we had some conversation.
Nutritionist.
No, I did not, but he was a chiropractor that specialized in brain injuries, and so he had different treatments that he would do with the tongue, eye exercises to help the brain repair the neurons and things like that. And we had conversation about that, and about the nutrition, and he said, yeah, my patients who do the worst are my younger patients because they're all vegetarian. And he said, those who are vegetarian do very badly, and they're usually the younger crowd because it's a trend. It's we've been brainwashed to think this is better. It's not better.
Wow. Like my daughter, she's a vegetarian, and I adapted myself into, or I tried to, but I really like chicken.
Yeah, chicken is great. I have chickens. I have 20 hens here. I raise chicken.
Oh, you live on a farm?
Yeah, it's about 12
Awesome.
acres here. Yeah, it's big. And so I have chickens, and I like eggs. I don't eat my chickens because they're my family, but we eat their eggs.
Okay. So you said that the chiropractor, he specialized in the brain injury and he was providing you like a dietary like
No,
list.
nothing with nutrition, unfortunately. But it was more about he had this whole program, and I don't know what it's called. I probably have written that in my book, because I kept a record of everything. Every day was it was therapeutic. I needed to do it to express myself. And not only that, it helped me remember when I reread my book, I was like, I had no clue many of the things that I wrote that it happened to me. I didn't know. So I would write it in the moment. Every day I would write a little something, especially big events, sometimes interaction with people where it was really, it wasn't very good, and how people don't understand what's happening, and they
I
don't they
thought
don't know they don't
I
know the handicap.
I thought that you meant that you wrote a book. Did you write a book?
Yeah, I wrote. It's a book basically. It's a self-help guide to during a brain injury. So it's meant for people who have brain trauma.
I didn't realize that. Oh my gosh. Okay, so at the end, please share that with
But no,
people.
the book is not published.
Oh, it's
It's
not?
written. It needs to be edited, and that will come down the road. I'm ready now. I couldn't do it before. It was just
Okay. Oh my
too much
gosh. I know
undertaking.
people are gonna need this. Um, we have 4 minutes before we wrap up into our personal question section. For
Okay.
people that have experienced these type of injuries, are there? Oh, you didn't even touch on the yoga part. I mean, you did in the beginning, but what
So I
are?
can briefly say about the yoga if you want. I developed so I was teaching the entire time. I cut down my teachings in third because I could barely function, but I still I lived alone, so I still needed to subsist. I'm not independently wealthy, so I needed to make a living somehow. And so I developed this different type of yoga to help me, and I offered it to my students, and it became one of the most popular classes.
Oh,
It was actually
wow.
packed, so that was pretty funny.
What is
So I
what is
did
that
yoga.
technique called?
What is it called?
Yeah, what's the technique called?
So it's a blend between a therapeutic yoga and I forget the name now. It will come back to me. Restorative yoga. So it's a
Okay.
blend between the two. So the restorative yoga, it's mostly you're sleeping with a bolster, basically. But this class is passive stretch, and while you do some deep breathing, and so people when they come out, it's not strenuous in any ways. And I had to do something like that because every time I did too much, the next day I'd have to stay in bed, close all the blinds. I couldn't stand the light, no noise. I mean, I would be incapacitated, so I'd have to be very careful how much I did each day. My life was basically the life of a 90-year-old in a 50-year-old's body, with the mind of a 5-year-old. So that's
Wow.
basically how you sum it up. That's exactly what happens. My dad was in his 90s at the time, and I said, Dad, he was like, I need to nap in the afternoon now. And I'm like, Dad, I do the same, and I have to sleep for like 4 or 5 hours. The afternoon is a long afternoon of sleeping, basically. I would sleep 12 hours a night, and I'd go teaching a class, and I only instructed. I didn't do the yoga for most of my classes. And I'd run home in a rush and run to bed. And all I could think about sleep, sleep, sleep. And I'd sleep for 4 or 5 hours. And sometimes I
Wow.
had a class in the evening. So that's how it went.
So how did that feel for you, knowing that you are this strong body, but yet you had to alleviate this trauma that you really were still trying to come into grips with? Like what
Yeah.
was going through your mind with Because that had to feel like an out of body experience almost.
It was. Well, I didn't have any vanity in that way where people are really, we can be attached to, the way that we are physically strong, we feel good and all that.
Mm-hmm.
You live in the moment and you have no choice because you don't remember past, future. It just doesn't matter. You're right here, right now, what's going on right now. So and then the spirituality is what saved me. And so without that, I mentioned that to you before, I would have taken my life for sure a long time ago. The spirituality was what held me together. And so, but I have been on my spiritual path for many years already at that time. So, 16, 17 years, I'm not sure at the time. And so, I had been anchored already inside with some wealth of spirituality. And so I had something to go back to. And I was able to read, like some people cannot after a brain injury. For me, I had no issue. So I could read, I could do my contemplation, I could go in my head and just have, spiritual experiences. And so that really saved me. And that was part of the healing. Without that, I think people who don't have either prayer or meditation or something spiritual or faith of some kind, they do really badly actually with the brain injury.
Wow.
And often it will push them into having some kind of searching for some kind of faith or something to, and it helps you. And we talked about that last time where when you go into meditation, your brain starts repairing the neurons and your brain lights up like a Christmas tree. And there's many studies that shows how changed the pituitary gland starts, the pineal gland starts growing actually and expanding in a healthy manner. And many things change over time. It's fascinating, but yeah, it's all about spirituality.
Marie-Aude, thank you so much for joining us. I know before we started the show that I would like for people to know where to find you, and then also too so they can keep up with you, so that way they know when your book is being published, because people need that. They need to hear your voice, and your story is so important. I mean, because who comes out of a brain injury and are now right? What are the statistics on that?
It's rare. Most people live with a brain injury for the rest of their lives. I mean, I don't have any side effects or anything. I did use something else that raised my own stem cells during the last 2 years, 3 years now, actually. And that's what actually brought me back. So because at my age, I'm 56 now, you not only go through hormonal changes, and so we don't produce young stem cell like we did in our 20s. It's just the way it is. Start having wrinkles and everything changes. I had like a big hole here. I lost lots of hair. I mean, there's a lot of things that happens to you. Your body is so depleted. The vitamins go into the brain. The brain is trying to repair. So it's like having a pregnancy. You probably can relate to that. What I've heard, sometimes women will lose their hair because everything goes into building the new baby. Yeah. And so the women get depleted in vitamins because it's all about the baby. So it's the same here, but with the brain, it's similar. I don't know if it's the same, but that's the analogy. So,
it sounds similar to women that I've heard lost their hair during pregnancy.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen friends like that. And so everything comes back afterwards. But yeah, so in this case here, I used a little device that's a wearable technology. And that's on my website. I have a whole page on that. And that really saved me. That brought me back fully. And that was a blessing, a major blessing.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. We're going to get into our personal questions and then wrap it up at 11 because I have an appointment to go to shortly.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
For number 9, If money wasn't a factor, what would you do with your time?
Gosh. uh, if money wasn't a factor, I'd probably move near the beach. I miss being near the ocean, somewhere where
Yes.
it's not too crowded. Probably not California, but somewhere where I can have a little shack or something. Not too much to upkeep, but and I don't know. I would definitely focus on the book and getting it published much faster than what I'm doing right now, because I still have to make a living. So it's you have so much time during the day.
As we do. Yes. All right. So your next question is what's your favorite movie and what does it reveal about you?
Gosh, all right. I'm very bad at all these things. Those
You're
trick
doing
questions.
fine.
What's my favorite movie? I probably have a lot, but I love something that Americans can relate to is Les Miserables. Les
Oh,
Miserables.
yes. I
So
don't
have
think
you
I've
ever
seen
seen
it
it?
though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's an old movie as far as French people are concerned, but it has a beautiful um, message that it's about this man who actually stole bread. I'll tell you briefly. Stole bread to feed his family and feed himself, and they were very poor. And so he got arrested for that, and he was sent to prison, and but not just a regular prison. It's those prison like in San Quentin or
Oh,
those big prisons where
isolated
you never
prison.
come out. Yeah.
Got it.
And so anyway, so there's a whole story behind it, and he was a really good person, and so he comes out, he actually escapes.
And he's a good person. And what happened after that?
Oh, you know what? I think you need to go see the movie.
Oh, okay. I need to see the movie. So the second part of that question was, what does it reveal about you?
I always have a heart for the the people, the underdog, I should say. The people who are suffering. I have to actually, I'm a kind of an empath, I think. I can officially say that. I've had to learn how to detach and not involve myself
Mm.
too much. Everybody has an experience they got to go through and all that. But my heart goes out to people who are suffering or having a difficult time, and I always want to help. But but sometimes when we do that, get too involved, we rob the person from their own experience that they need to have to learn about
Good.
how to get out of this. So what I'm learning is to give them the support, but not do it for them, or not, they have to find out for themselves what works.
That is so
So
good.
yeah,
Could you
that's a
repeat
big
that again? Repeat that just one more time because that was so good.
So being an empath, you just want to help others to be well and happy and have what they want. And when they're going through a difficult situation, instead of jumping in and trying to do it with them or to even do it for them, you have to step back and take a moment and just support them so you don't carry their weight, but they can go through their own experience and learn the lesson they need to learn along the way. We all have lessons to learn, and each experience, like my experience, was heavy. But at the same time, the way it turned out is I went within even deeper, which serves me even more. So I would never change the experience, even though I wished I had had a daddy or somebody in my life at that time, to like a spouse. It would have been a great help to have. But I lived alone, so somehow I managed.
Wow.
I don't know how.
Thank you for those words of wisdom. So your last question, my dear, because yeah, people do take on burdens that don't belong to them, and
Yes.
it's important to identify what what your purpose is served for that time, which is just to leave some wisdom to share support, but not be the support system.
Yeah, not be, yes. Not for them to think you have all the answers and they do nothing about finding their own answers. Because really all the answers are inside of us. Everything is within us. We just have to dig in, and it's not always easy, of course, but we have to start somewhere and we got to do it. So
Yeah, I'm still asking those questions too, because you said something about detachment that it's just still something that for me to work on in my experience in my journey. So, in for your last question, is there any question you wish I'd asked you?
no, I mean, there's so much more we could talk about. Not at all. I think this is pretty, it tells a lot. Of course, there's much more to explain, and our stories are full in general, I think, for most people. So an hour of interview is very hard to summarize everything.
Okay,
No,
no
I think
worries.
it's great.
So, Marie-Aude, can you
And
please?
say about what you were mentioning just earlier, everything is work in progress. It's not like one and done kind of thing. I always try to remind people that it's like it's work in progress. It's about evolution and changing and growing. It's not like, okay, I get this now and that's it. No, nothing like that.
I thought, because last week I had an experience with my daughter, and she was the reason that I wrote my book, and I had thought that I had overcome this area with her until because the time that I wrote my book, it was a challenging time as a parent because she was in her teens and now she's an adult. And we had this a scuffle like last week or the week before. And then after I had gone over it and I had overcome it, I just thought to myself, like, dang, this thing really never changes. Like, you will always be presented with an obstacle. You will always, and not just obstacle. If I say it that way and look at it that way, it will be that, but a lesson to help us sharpen ourselves.
That's right. That's right. If you insist on it being a problem, then it is a problem.
So,
Meanwhile, eventually we rise above the situation, and it can happen, but it's not a big deal. It's just like, okay, yeah, I can
yeah,
deal with that. We
I like
grow
it. I
our
like it.
muscles.
Right? I like it. I like it. We are women of strength.
That's
So
right.
please let everyone know where they can find you on your social media. And then once I'm done with the podcast, I'll download it and have all your contact information in there. And
That
oh, and
sounds
also
great.
too, what new things are coming up for you that you can share with people?
So, okay, yes. So you can find me on YouTube at the Eclectic French Yogini, and that's my YouTube channel. So far, I just have videos of yoga, but I will be talking more about the brain injury and many different tips that I will offer. And then on how to heal and different approaches that I used. As well, you can find me on Instagram at The Eclectic French. That's my handle. And my email address is Marie-Aude, my first name, at theeclecticfrenchyogini.com. So I have a website as well, theeclecticfrenchyogini.com. And it's a little long, but that's what I came up with because it made sense to me.
That's all that really matters. It makes sense.
What's coming up is I'm putting packages together to help people to recover from their brain injury, where I will do some one-on-one with them and give them a structure to follow and to help them recover from their brain injury and to just navigate the brain injury while they're going through it.
So, do you also offer these sessions remotely?
Yes, absolutely. This will be actually an online course. Course one-on-one. It's more like a workshop. And I also offer health coaching online as well. I have a home studio here, so I do see clients as well at home. But yes, I'm trying to move my business a little bit more online and more worldwide. So
Okay.
it's work in progress as well.
Well, I think it's already worldwide because we're on the World Wide Web.
I know.
All right, my darling. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your presence, your wisdom, and please continue to share um, just these nuggets of freedom that offer people a little bit more direction in their own lives for their own clarity.
Thank you very much, Fran. It was wonderful to be with you this morning.